Alrighty. We are here. Hopefully the stream is up. Looks like it to me. And welcome back. We're doing another Eliminator draft because I haven't done this in a while. Well, I need to clear out my rankings, actually, for the Eliminator. I have not updated them recently enough that I'm confident in having them be public and something that I want to stand by. So we will just not be showing them. I'm going to quickly, as we're filling up this lobby, we got, what, 4 more people left, I think? I don't know because I'm not looking at it. There we go. 3 more people left for this Eliminator. I'm going to go quickly post on my X that I am streaming. It. Do this. Do this. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Yeah, this is also a little bit of a test for my new location. Obviously, you can see not a dirty bed behind me. This is where I will be streaming from most likely for the next couple of months. So I think it's got a little bit better lighting, a bit better background than what I had in cast housing. So hopefully I get to stay here for a little bit. And hopefully I get to completely upend my life and do another show. But in terms of giving you guys the best product, I think this is going to be a little bit nicer than what we had earlier. It doesn't seem like anything's going wrong on the back end. Intriguing. Let's see if that's actually what's going on. It is. Do I have the wrong window? I do. It's really funny. Because I have this window up. I meant to have the other window up. So sorry. So we're in a draft, and it is broadcasting the draft as I meant to do. Great. All right. So we got the 1.7 for this one. Ha ha ha. Pretty sure this is the one that it's indexed on. See if I close this. Does it kill the stream? No. Ta-da! All right. Great. So we're at a point where I can see the chat. Oh my gosh! And we've got somebody in the chat. That's what we love to see. So howdy, Hartman. It's good to see you. I've been seeing you around a couple of the other streams. I think you were around when I was doing the bash, which was a fun time to see everyone. You know, that chat was racing. Very difficult to keep up with. Don't have that problem here on my own personal streams, which is, you know, a nice thing to have as we're building up reps, sort of getting used to this whole streaming thing. I'm wondering if there's a better place for me to put my camera in the grand scheme of things. Let me make sure. Yep. Just because you can't really see the pics. I guess if I'm in uh, this view, it's not as bad, but because you can see the stuff on the draft board, I guess. But yeah. All right. Now you're gonna see this sidekick over here, and we're gonna be probably ignoring it a decent amount. Because I really hate Taylor. The more I think about it, the more I think that Jonathan Taylor is just Saquon Barkley from last year, like just so much positive uh, understand. Like he just had so many touchdowns last year in an offense that we're expecting to be a lot worse this year. So I don't know if I can really comfortably take him at the 1.6, and he has the whole like touch problem. Like it's just a big disaster. All right, let me see if I can bring my mic closer to my face. I'm sure that didn't sound good. Me actually just manhandling my mic. Let me hear myself. All right, does that sound a little bit better? I'm hoping so. Sounds better on my end when I'm listening back to myself. But yeah, that sounds good to me. If it doesn't to you, let me know. But I think that's a bit better. And I just need to stop mumbling. It's tough when it's late and I don't want to be like yelling and have people from other places get mad at me, but I do want to make sure that I am able to be clear and sound good. That's what we like to hear. Alrighty, so we're about to be up again here. It's strange to me that it wants London or Bowers or AJB over a running back here. I'm not a huge Chase Brown guy. I think his bye week's a little bit early. I don't necessarily love stacking Gene Team Bowers. Actually, if I'm going to stack Gene Team Bowers, this is the competition where I'm going to want to do it. And probably not take Mendoza. And just go, okay, maybe it's Kirk, maybe it's Mendoza, whatever it is. The Raiders are just better than expected, and both of these guys are smashes at cost, which I think is perfectly reasonable. An easy sell to figure out. I meant to do a quick post um, on X, but uh, it doesn't seem to matter that much. I see what's going on. I am going to war against Mr. Jiri. Oh, I'm in the same draft as Mr. Jiri. That's what's going on. Oh, that's cool. Oh, great. And I'm showing off my Twitter and stuff. That's what we love to see. Very important to be showing off my other backend stuff. Always lovely. I'm sure that's what the people are clamoring for. But yeah, we'll be looking at Jiri's team as we go through this. Let's see if I can figure out a good place to put the sidekick on this mode. I don't know where. Amateur streamer hour. So it's just going in a random spot. Where? What is Jiri's name? I just saw that he is drafting, and it looks like he's in the same draft as me. He has the Cook Walker start, I think. Is that it? Hoodied. Okay, that's a good name. I will say that is a much better name than my underdog name. Cook and Walker. I mean, I get it. I can see how you get there. Walker's a good player. Cook is a fine player, as much as it pains me to say. But we are up here. I agree with the sidekick here, actually. I think we're gonna go Travis Etienne, and I think he's just like you can be really confident that he's going to be starting, and Kamara's going to take some random nonsense, and that's going to be annoying, but it's going to be fine. Oh, and we got Hartman at 12. Okay, wow, we got a random friends and family eliminator here at midnight Eastern. That's what we love to see. Let's pull up what you're doing from the 12 hole as well, Mr. Hart. Okay, so yeah, hoodied Cook, Walker, Jacobs. Yep, cranking the green. And oh man, it's not a great spot in the 12 hole. I would I would say. I mean, you're getting probably two good receivers here, but oh no, goes Scatabo. Yeah, man, it's so wild because I was drafting some of the whatever the $7 contest was today. I forget what it's called. I think it was like the Poodle or something. Oh, that is a good place to put the sidekick. So because I can see it, but not everyone can. Man, one day I'll figure out how to make all this work. Anyways, what I was saying is, I forgot. Oh, I was drafting like normal like BBM style teams earlier, and it was just so incredibly strange, like not seeing this just like swath of green in every draft. Like I don't know. It's nice to not have to go these fragile running back builds all the time. So we go back to the queue. Oh, and then I have to move it. Okay, I'm seeing the problem here. Neighbors is unpickable. Evans is fine. Tet is fine. I'm gonna slightly prefer Tet here, just because I don't. worried about over-indexing on week 8 buys because I'm a big aren't you worried bro. I guess we'll end up with it here. Man, I need to watch more of other people's streams and figure out how they're doing it. Yeah, RB is almost certainly going to be cooked at the 5-6 turn. Like, what are those picks? 60 and 61 in the eliminate. Like in a BBM, you could get like a Irving or a Tootin falls you very reasonably. Travion, I mean, are you really? Do you really want to be like stressing whether or not Tony Pollard comes back to you at the 5-6 turn? I don't want to be stressing that. And I mean, for those people that don't draft eliminators enough, they don't understand the struggle of having to pray that you get Tony Pollard at the 5-6 turn because you only got 2 running backs or 1 running back through 4, and you're like, please, please, I need a second running back. Please, I need points. The Psychic's so down on Luther Burden in this format. I wouldn't have thought that that would be something that's super that Psychic would have a strong opinion on. It's the status of Luther Burden. Darn, I was hoping we get a little bit of fall on Mr. Tootin. Yeah, people are just slurping up these running backs. It gives the opportunity for those of us to have already taken some running backs to catch up a little bit at receiver. Perhaps I'm gonna do these picks and then go back and look at what our friends on the right side of the board do. I mean, if we get a 10 pick drop on Burden, imagine telling a BBM bro that they have to actually have a strong thought of, oh, is it better to take Luther Burden or is it better to take Tony Pollard? And I will be taking Luther Burden. You know, keeps our bye weeks more diversified. 10 pick ADP drop is a lot, and I am a noted Colston Loveland bear. So if Loveland's not going to be great, then, you know, who is on what's probably going to be a decent to good offense? Yep. Yep. Baited. Absolutely baited Mr. Jerry into a bad pick. I mean, one of these Chicago guys is going to go off. Maybe 2 that we're picking here between Loveland Odunze and Burden, and I'm just hoping, for the sake of all my exposures across all the contests, that it is not Loveland. Because I'm not silly. I'm not gonna say that it's not possible for it to be Loveland. I just think that we saw what happened in year 2 with Sam Laporta, and when Ben Johnson has good receivers, I think he's going to prioritize those good receivers over middling, uh, over even really good tight ends. Like the end of Colson Loveland's year was really good, but when you have the ability to plan ahead, I don't know. I'm worried. I don't think it's going to be there. We could have a Carolina bet and take Hubbard here. Psychic doesn't like it, but I do. So we'll take Chuba here at 66. And I think I'm not really worried about a guy who hasn't played meaningful NFL snaps in 3 years. Uh, like, I just, if he's the guy that comes and takes over and is really good, great. You know, good for him. I hope he does. Like, he seems like a good, a nice young man. Jonathan Brooks, from everything I've seen, he doesn't seem to have had any big scandals or anything that I know of. Although I'm not always super in the weeds on that, so correct me if I'm wrong. But I just that Chuba Hubbard has had really good seasons. He's had 1,200-yard rushing, or is it 1,200 rushing or 1,200 combined? Doesn't really matter. Like he's had really good seasons before, and they've financially invested into him. And his competition is a guy who hasn't played snaps in 3 years. That it may have been a first-round pick, but there's just so many ifs that are carrying Jonathan Brooks' profile for me to not want to take a correlated strong bet on a possibly ascending offense. Yeah, if you're noticing a theme between these picks, it's a lot of possibly ascending offenses from last year. Like the Bears were good last year, but we expect them to be better, and that's also almost a 10 pick ADP discount. Betting on Carolina to be better, betting on Vegas to be better, betting on New Orleans to be better. What else can you want? And we may continue to be betting on New Orleans to be better. It'd be really funny if we get the Jordan Tyson fall to us. What's the latest update on his? I mean, he's still rehabbing, participating, blah, blah, blah. It's hamstring, blah, blah, blah. Like, from everything I've seen, it's not really something to be super duper worried about. Is this the draft that I take Caleb Williams? If I don't, someone further on my right is going to. And I really don't have very much Caleb Williams exposure. Some small stacks, even in the Eliminator, are pretty good. Getting him significantly past ADP and correlated with someone else who's significantly past ADP, I think this may be my first Caleb Williams share. I think this is actually not a spot where I hate it. Let's go back to the draft board. No, that's not what we want. That's incorrect. And oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of Jerry's team here. I think Parker Washington is my least favorite of all the Jags receivers. I think pulling Trevor Lawrence up that much, because I'm pretty sure that is a reach. A little bit of a reach. I think is just unnecessary. I think Ibuka also just has a really, really low floor that I'm not super excited to be in on. For much before Hartman's team. Doesn't seem like there's any big problems. I think Alec Pierce is undraftable, unfortunately, with all this foot stuff, and very possible that he's out at the beginning of the year. But if he's not undraftable, he's really good. You know, like if he's not undraftable, he's going to be a really strong receiver in what is, you know, an offense that overachieved last year, but it's probably still pretty darn decent. On that note, I kind of like Downs as the opposite of all the Alec Pierce stuff. Like Downs can be moved all over the formation now. Hopefully, he is with or without the stuff with Alec Pierce. If Alec Pierce is out, he's going to be the top receiver in that offense for a little while, and he is really, really talented by all the ball knowers understanding. So, what else can you really want other than a talented guy who's the number one in a decent offense that's going to move all around the formation? Like that's, pardon me, that's what you hope for. Uh, what did we get? We got Pittman there for Jerry. It's fine, I think. We'll say seems like everyone in this room has done a pretty good job of making sure their buys are well differentiated. Oh, yes. The running backs just steaming off the board. Um, hmm. I mean, we could just, I mean, we have so many late possible stacking options if we want stacked quarterbacks. And if we don't want stacked quarterbacks, we can just grab whoever falls. So, I mean, we're already making directional bets on Vegas and Carolina, and both of those quarterbacks go pretty late. So, should be able to work. Oh, that's a ton of capital at quarterback. Jesus. Jackson Hurts Dart out of the two hole. I mean, I like the running backs. I like the quarterbacks. Obviously, spent way too much capital on them, and you can see why. Like this receiver room is going to be atrocious. It's gonna. I mean, that's just an absolute abject disaster. Another unpickable player, in my opinion, and Michael Wilson goes off the board at 99. Just insane. It'd be very funny if I took Jonathan Brooks. I don't think it'd be very good. Why? Why can't I pick QJ here? You know, 10 pick fall, and we don't know who. Like, I love Lad, and I think Lad really fits a lot of the Mike McDaniel stuff. better than QJ does. But QJ could also just go off and, have fixed his drop problems and go deep downfield. And I think that would be, a great value here at 103. And you're having to pick him against, other twos in decent offenses in your Jordan Addisons. But, Jordan Addison has competition from Juwan Jennings. Like, there's some talk that Jennings may be able to usurp him as the number two. Xavier Worthy is very boom bust, has, like, multiple problems in his profile. Jacoby Myers, I don't think he's going to be a three, but could be a three. Ricky Pearsall's sort of in this same vein, like a very decent two. And I think the bye week worked out, and I think it's we're getting unique combos. 10 pick fall on Luther Burden, and a 10 pick fall on QJ, with some nonsense from Caleb Williams at the beginning. With some nonsense with Caleb Williams and the Gene to reach. Like, this is going to be a unique team. Yeah, again, I'm not really scared of Jonathan Brooks. Someone else can deal with that problem. It's not going to be me. Uh, yeah, we could. I mean, Purple Heart Pearsall versus Wandale, I think, are the people I'm looking at. I think I've definitely been taking more Wandale, but I don't know. Something's just telling me to pick Pearsall this time, so I'm going to pick Pearsall. Or I'm going to get auto-drafted Jonathan Brooks. Oh, that's really nice. That's really good. Oh my gosh. Well, 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 well. What an expert. What a professional. Talk all this shit about Jonathan Brooks and I end up taking him. Hey. Yeah, that's pretty much just unexcusable, I think. Sometimes mistakes happen. Yeah, I can't even. I was like trying to figure out a way to pass it off, but I think the answer right now is damage control. Obviously, there's no reason to get stuck on it. We just go like we didn't have a 10th round pick, basically. So we're probably gonna end up with 5 running backs because of that. Because I will say, between Hubbard and Brooks, like guaranteeing what you're getting out of the Carolina backfield is definitely definitely better than just having one of them. Like if I could add Jonathan Brooks for free to my team instead of having to use a 10th round pick, obviously I would do so. So it's definitely made the running back room a little bit stronger. So I can probably get away. Like I would usually want to go one more running back anyway, but it may just be a little bit earlier than I want it to be. I think very clearly with Bowers we can get away with 2 tight ends, and then just put a little bit more fire at the receiver position, and it'll be fine. You know, we're gonna be doing 150 of these drafts on stream. We're bound to make some mistakes in the middle, which is just how life is gonna go. Yeah, this is gonna be a fun one. I'm excited to watch Jiri's POV of this draft after I'm done. Yeah, not my best work with the Carolina backfield. I don't think I've really talked too much about I've talked about it in like some like DMs and stuff, but not really super publicly. But I will say this: I think not to toot my own horn, I think I did a pretty good job on the bash. We're gonna quickly make a pick here. Shakir versus Concepcion. I think Concepcion could come on really strong, but I also am worried about quarterback. Sidekick doesn't love it. I like Malik Willis. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it might not be the worst. I agree with that. It might not be the worst. Um, and I think that it's good to go, okay, what does this bring in terms of upside? Like, how can I sell this to myself and try and move forward and create a team that does use the fact that, oh, okay, we have a third really strong running back, basically. Like, the combination of Hubbards and Brooks is probably like the equivalent of having a fourth round running back. Like, I'm guessing the better of their scores is going to be about equivalent to having a DeAndre Swift, instead of just having a Chuba Hubbard. And like, oh, okay, if I had those three running backs, what would I do? Probably tack on one more as a fourth option and then be done with it. So then let's just go down that path. But yeah, no, I thought the match was really fun. I think I did a really good job. I really had a good time with my partner. I think Tart was a great guy to sit and chat and talk ball with. I saw that he on X did a like stream where he was DJing while he drafted a team, which I thought was wild and crazy and super funny and super fun. But yeah, I think the problem is I think everyone did really, really well. Like, I think Emo did a phenomenal job with BB Frozen. I think that Cups and Max obviously had a really good back and forth. O'Hara and PPR Tyler obviously had a really good back and forth. The Gamish obviously I think can talk to anyone and have a great time with it. So yeah, and then Tony had I think a rough showing of it. I think it's also I think there was when I was watching there were people in the chat that I think were saying the truth, which was that Tony was sort of getting compared against Pete, and then after that happened, the rest of us were sort of being compared against Tony. I think no one did as good of a job as Pete normally does. Like, Pete's been doing this for a long time. He's had a lot of time to prepare, and he's really good at this. Um, and I don't think any of us quite met that standard. But I think that having the worst person be first, uh, and not worst person. I'm not saying that Tony is the worst competitor. I'm saying he did. I think he did the worst at this challenge, and I think that's a pretty commonly held opinion. You know, although I will say, I think a lot of people are talking about having Kitchen as a guest being like an unequivocally good thing, and I'm not sure I agree with that. I think that there's a lot of different things that can make someone be a good or bad guest, and a lot of it depends on who is the host, and I don't think that that combo was particularly good for Tony. Like, I don't think that he was served by having someone who also didn't like know a ton of ball and was like, not that Kitchen doesn't know ball, but it's not like at least to my knowledge, I don't think Kitchen has a very strong player take on every single player, which is something that I think Tony would have really benefited from. Like, I think if Tony had Tart on, where I think a lot of our conversation was me going back and forth and being like, okay, what do you think about this player? What do you think about this player? And he was a very seasoned best ball drafter and had a lot of opinions on a lot of different players. I think that that's something that Tony would have been better at, just sliding into that scenario because you can sort of pass off the ball knowledge requirement onto your guest, which is not a bad thing to do. Like, I think the goal of this, ooh, I think we go Bryce Young and say we are really betting on the Carolina Panthers. Get all three of those quarterbacks, two tight ends, we'll tack on a running back, and then just hammer receiver, I think. But back on topic, I think that, yeah, over indexing on trying to provide ball knowledge is just not what's important for that. Like, I think that, and Pete shared this, so I think I can talk about it. Like, this was said to us to be interview week, and I think that in the context of the bash, an interview is very different than like sitting down and like doing a job interview or something like that. I think you want it to be a little bit more natural and a little bit more free flowing, and the entire point of the bash is for the guest to shine. I remember like looking through the comments of the video, and I remember like seeing people ranking me lower, like their fourth or fifth favorite, and then with the comment of something along the lines of, I think his guest outshone him. And I'm like, that's exactly what I wanted. And if people didn't like that or thought that that wasn't good, I'm okay with that. But my goal was to, like, going in, I'm like, I want my guest to shine. I want myself to sort of just fade into the background and, point guard facilitate my guests' takes and stuff. And that's another reason why I thought that, like, doing the alternating thing on, uh, whatchamacallit, sorry, I'm going to pick first and then continue talking later. Let's do Jawan Jennings. Could be the wide receiver too. I need a receiver here. Past ADP. A little bit more confident in his ability to give me weekly floor than Travis Hunter. So we'll keep him. We'll keep him. He's good. He's okay. I like him. But yeah, back to that. I think that Tony doing the, like, I'm gonna make a pick and then you're gonna make a pick thing was just an abject disaster. Because I think it made it too much about Tony and not enough about just talking with Kitchen. And I think it was telling that no one else, like, I think the only time that any of the rest of the five of us made any pick was choosing between two options that the guest gave us. And even then, I think a lot of us were like, well, I guess if I have to choose one, it would be this, but whatever you want. And I think that that was a better way to do it. Now, I don't know. I don't know JJ's stuff particularly well. I don't know JJ as a person at all. And I've watched a bit of Kitchen on the Swolecast, but that's about it. So I have no idea what they're looking for or what they're gonna want from a host. But yeah, yeah, and you compound it with talking to Hartman in the chat, where he's should have let the guest choose. When you're not an experienced drafter and you're streaming to a bunch of people that are very experienced drafters, they can pick up on oddities. Like, I don't think most people would pick up on the Tucker Craft thing, but this audience does. Like, everyone's like, that's weird. Not only is that weird, I can tell you pretty confidently that I think it's a bad choice. And here is why it's a bad choice and why I think that Tony chose to do that to try and show off his ball knowledge that, may or may not be his strongest suit. It's weird. And it's an interesting thing, especially because, at least from my mindset, the focus of this week and the focus of this challenge was the interview. The draft is not important. Like, not that it's, you can toss out the draft or anything. Like, obviously, it's an important part of the stream and the flow of things, but I'd much rather have a bad draft that you look on and, Fantasy Football Garage Candyman comes and says that this is an awful draft, but a good time with my guest, than vice versa. All right. Now, I'm very tempted to take Malik Washington, and I think I will, because at the beginning of the year he's probably going to be the number one. Malik Willis has to throw the ball sometimes, and he'll throw it downfield occasionally. And Malik Washington can catch balls downfield. It's not his main thing, but he can do it. So maybe that'll help me a little bit in these early weeks. I'm not a huge fan of this team so far. I think it's fine, but I am not loving it. Like, I think Bowers and Kincaid is a bit of a volatile tight end room for my liking, but I also think it would be a big mistake to spend any more capital there when I have more glaring holes at running back and receiver in my mind. So it's just a little bit worrying from that point of view. Like, if I get a good falling value on running back or receiver production, great. But I'm not envisioning that happening. So I'm not going to be super comfortable with the tight end room. I'm obviously not going to be super comfortable with the running back room or the receiver room, but the quarterbacks are going to look pretty good. And that's not always where I want to be with my teams. But, this is one of the most volatile contests that Underdog has. So if I'm worried about the team, we can just hope for some good pod luck. I haven't actually looked at our other, you know, people that we know's teams here. So I think after this pick, I'm gonna just take a quick look at some of the other friends of the stream's teams. Man, I'm not a huge. How is Brandon Ayuk so high in this? That's comical. I'm guessing it just hasn't updated yet. I don't love Wicks. Is there a running back I like? Not really. Yeah, we'll take Wicks. He's fine. He could get some points early. But yeah, so what do we got out of Jiri here? Got the 3 early running backs. Came with a 4th and a 5th and Tracy and Spears. Pretty reasonable. Quarterbacks of Mendoza, Darnold, Lawrence. Fine. Tight end of Terrence Ferguson, Colson Loveland. He probably wants one more, I would guess, unless he's super in on Terrence Ferguson, which is possible. Receivers, Tucker, Myers, Addison, Pittman, Washington, and Buka. I think that if I was drafting, I'd probably want to take a receiver and a tight end with my last 2 picks if I was him. And I think the team would be cromulent. Obviously, it's not the sort of team I would like or I'd want to draft, but I can't find any glaring flaws in it. And then looking at Hartman's team over here, we got tight ends Laporta and Strange. Probably going to want a third one, I would imagine. Running backs Katron and Braylon Allen, Dylan Sampson, Corum, Scatterwood Barkley, almost certainly good on that front. Receivers Jefferson, Olave, Watson, Thomas, Pierce, Diggs. Probably want one more. And then quarterbacks Goff, Jones. That room's probably just going to be you're just going to have to trust in Jared Goff. I don't think there's much you can do at this point in the Eliminator to fix your quarterback problems unless you're really confident in one of the Atlanta or Cleveland options. Or just want to, burn a pick on Kirk and say, hey, he'll probably be starting at the beginning of the season, and that's what I care about. Which, fair. If I was going to take a running back, Psychic says Halani or Nick Singleton, which means I say I'm going to be taking my 8th receiver. And I think Cooper Kupp, obviously didn't have a great year last year, probably on the decline, but I'm going to say it again. Has bye week. His bye week. Sorry, his bye week makes me happy. He's a veteran receiver, and I like. I don't even remember the guy's name. The other receiver, Torrey Horton. I'm not a believer in Torrey Horton or Jake Bobo, so he'll be out there in 3 wide receiver sets, and he's a good enough run blocker and just overall player that he's gonna get a little bit of stuff thrown his way. And with a 17th round pick, that's all you can really hope for. Yeah, I mean, and that's fine. In my opinion, if you're gonna get left behind somewhere, quarterback's not the worst place to do so because if you're right, it's really nice. Like if you're just like, oh, Goff and Daniel Jones can waddle me through, that feels really nice. And the rest of your team looks really, really solid. And Tua is almost certainly going to be starting in the money weeks for this contest. So that's all you can really ask for. I'm gonna see if we can get a second one going. So I was hoping to do 2 or 3 on this stream. It's gonna be a bit of a longer one for me. I've got a little bit of extra time. Don't know why that happened. It's very annoying sometimes. Oh, wow, it might actually fill before the other one ends. Just kind of nice. Just keep things flowing. All right. Are we think George Holani is actually going to continue running with the ones? I mean, he's already getting booted. But other options are Emmanuel Wilson, who's certainly worse than him right now, from what we're hearing. Nick Singleton, Jordan James, Mike Washington. Polani at least has a chance of being relevant in, our money week. So we'll grab him. Not super happy with this team, but it's 18 players that I think can do really well. So we got Caleb Williams, Malik Willis, Bryce Young at quarterback, Gene T, Etienne, Hubbard, and Brooks, and Halani at running back. Tet, Burden, Downs, Johnston, Jennings, Malik Washington, Wicks, and Cooper Kupp at wide receiver, and Bowers and Kincaid at tight end. It's fine. I'm certainly not going to post it on X and try and get people to come and roast it because I think it'd be pretty easy to. But it's a fine team. I'm happy I have it in my portfolio. It has a couple of people that I'm happy to differentiate on with a bunch of the Chicago stuff, really. So glad to have it, and we'll move on to the next one, which will be us starting at the 1.6. See if there's anyone from the last draft or anyone I know in this draft. Don't think so, which is perfectly fine. Let's get into the draft and pop up the draft view that people like more. I forget how much the psychic. Oh, we got Genty at 3. People really do just be taking Genty wherever the heck they want. People really just do be taking Genty. I don't get it. Like obviously, I pulled up Genty in our last draft, which I thought was maybe not the best, but I really don't like Jonathan Taylor. So yeah, if you really believe in Genty and want to take him at 3, you can have 100% of Genty at 3 in my drafts. I will not be arguing with that. I think the earliest I would take Genty is at 6, which is where I took him in the last draft. If the top 5 come off, and even that is happening at a randomized percentage. And by randomized, it's not actually randomized. It's just how I feel on any particular draft, which is the best sort of randomization. Oh, okay, cool. That is okay. I'm not good at remembering usernames. So, great. Nah, I mean I think that it's going to be overpriced, obviously. But if you want to go get your guy, get your guy. And that is the number one way to build a shipper is to start with Ashton GT. Whether or not shippers are actually good teams, we'll figure out later in the season. But it is certainly a certified Rambus shipper if you start off with G&T. I'm curious what Rambus would think of the last team that I did with G&T and stuff, you know? I'm sure he'd find a way to tear it to pieces, which is obviously the goal. Alrighty, so we had the big running back thing happen right before us. Now, this is the bad part about taking JSN, is it feels really bad to be taking either one of these receivers right after him and doing the double week 11 bye thing so early in the draft. Like, I'm going to have to be very conscious of my week 11 buys, especially at receiver moving forward, and my running back room is going to be rough. However, this is a really good wide receiver room. And I didn't really have the option of grabbing any really good running backs. Like all of these 1-2 turn running backs obviously passed me by. So our next best running back would have been Love or Breece Hall, which we also have a non-zero chance of getting one of those back here after the turn. All right. G&T and AJ Brown. Good start. I'm really warming on AJ Brown as a pick. I think it may be a little bit not super. I don't know. The beginning of the season might be rough. Just new offense, new quarterback. Like, I think it's non-zero that the first couple of games it takes a second to gel, especially because AJ Brown is such a strong personality and has like strong thoughts on how things should work. Hopefully that's less of a problem now that he's happy with where he's at, but you never know. All right, so I'm not getting one of the elite tight ends. This is going to be a more typical punt tight end sort of room. Okay, I think we'll take another Etienne stare. I agree that it's between Etienne or Zay for me. I love Zay Flowers, but I really don't want to get too behind at running back, and Etienne helps with that a lot. So I don't have to take David Montgomery. David Montgomery's price is just wild to me. Like we're taking like David Montgomery on the Lions was not that great of a player. Like let's be so incredibly for real. He was not that great of a player. And we're not expecting this Houston offense to be like world beating. Like I think it can maintain a decent running back, but not necessarily one that's going that high that I'm not really sure is a talented running back anymore. Like if I thought David Montgomery was a talented running back, sure, I'd be more in on this, but I don't, and I don't think most people that are taking him think he's a particularly talented running back. So I don't get it. I don't get it. But that's okay. Don't always have to get what other people are doing. I just won't be drafting a ton of David Montgomery, and that's okay. And I'll probably try and keep it that way. I'll let the same guy who's picking Josh Allen grab David Montgomery, especially in the Eliminator. I'm going to be very comfortable having 0% Josh Allen. Like, you just need viable scores at quarterback, is what I learned from last year. Whether or not that's the actual like analytical takeaway, I'm not sure, but I don't know. Ugh. All right, cool. We get Lad here, who I think is a smash, mainly because I can't take Scatabo because bye week nonsense. I think that taking another higher pick receiver actually helps with this week 11 bye stuff. Like, because we can be starting 4 receivers any given week. I'm sure we all know the settings on Underdog, but like having a stronger stable of wide receivers helps deal with the fact that 2 of them are going to be off in a single week. So we'll probably grab another running back next, and then another wide receiver. Just really push tight end and quarterback. Yeah, just catching up with the chat. I think Drake May can make a lot of guys look good, and he proved that last year. But I don't know. It's just he hasn't really been tested as a leader. I think is where my head is at, and I think he's going to pass that test with flying colors, but I'm not 100% sure he will. So yeah. And then to Goomba's point with the overlapping buys of your high draft capital players, yes, absolutely. I think it is a death sentence to getting past week 11. I think week 11 is far enough into the tournament that I'm okay with that. And I think that if constructed correctly, if it's only 2, it can be fine. If it's 3, it's going to be rough. I think it is entirely possible for this to be rough. Like, let's be so honest. It is very possible that this is going to bite me in the butt. But I think I really want exposure to these really good wide receivers and not having all of my teams just be green, 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 green at the top of the draft board. So it's saying Tony Pollard here. I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can bring myself to pick Pollard in the 5th round. I like Lamar. I think Lamar's a really good quarterback. I think you're getting him in the mid 5th. Like that feels really good. You're taking him where other people are taking these. Tight ends, we are going to be certainly throwing a lot of dart throws at either running back or receiver. My hope is to get a bunch of like middling running backs and receivers rather than receivers, but such is life. Sometimes in some worlds I get a pod, an opponent, an opponent in week 11 who just doesn't have quarterback points that week. You know, he had Jordan Love who's on bye, and Josh Allen who's injured that week. You know, it's I think you can forgive a couple of structural things, rarely, or I have the 40-point Lamar week. There's a lot of different variables that can happen that will make things seem more or less okay. And you just have to accept that that's going to be part of this contest in particular. But again, it's not. This is not something I'm going to be trying to do a lot of, but not something I'm going to be zeroing out either. And it is a reason why JSN, even I think, if you think he is the third best, or the best of the three receivers that go at the top of drafts, you should probably be taking him third because the bye week makes it very difficult to come back with in that second round. They're just tempting me with quarterbacks here, which is very funny. I will not be falling for the temptation. I will be drafting Jalen Warren. I think we got our Hubbard fix last draft. I think Jalen Warren is a pick that's better and a pick that I want to have on more of my teams. I think that this Pittsburgh offense is being underrated with Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers, who was still good. Like, not great, but good last year. He was fine enough. Like, he wasn't a great fantasy producer, but he was able to carry along enough other fantasy producers so that that offense is not one that we have to run away from or be super shy about. And that's all I want from the quarterback is make it so that I'm not worried about the offense as a whole. I like this team a lot, Mr. Hartman, compared to the last one. I think, actually, people think worried about me and over-indexing on week 11 buys. I hope that we're matched up in a pod on week 11, Mr. Hartman. That would be fun. Judkins, Adams, May, and AJ Brown, four of the top six picks by week 11. That is more than I'm comfortable with. Personally, I will take. I think what I've said is 3 through 7, and I'd want them on the back end of the 7. I guess I should have kept my mouth shut about my feelings about the Pittsburgh players because I would have really loved to have DK Metcalf here. Alas, that's what happens when you stream. People are going to listen to you, whether for better or for worse. Chuba Hubbard goes. I'm like, Chuba Hubbard in the 7th round would have been perfectly acceptable. I would have probably jumped on that. So my thought process is I either want Herbert or Tyson. I didn't get the chance to do Tyson last time. We'll do Tyson here. Obviously, rookie in a already strong receiver room is a plus. Rookie in a receiver room where I'm going to need points week 11 plus. Team level correlation with Travis Etienne plus. Like, this is just, I don't really love Jordan Tyson as much as I've been talking about him over the past two drafts, but I think these are just two really good spots for him. Yeah, I always forget when we're talking about like the prize pools, like you forget that most of the time buys don't even matter because an eighth of the teams are around in week 3. By the time we get to week 11, a fraction of the teams are going to be around. And what's the pay structure for the Eliminator? We got, if you make it to week 11, so it's about, I have to do this in my head, 200,000 to 100,000 after week 1. So it's going to be after week 10. So 100,000, 50,000, 25, 12.5, 6-ish, 3-ish, 1.5-ish, 750-ish, 375-ish, 192-ish. So it's about 1,000. It should be $1,000 for making it to week 11. And if you get one team there and it dies over your max entries, like you're probably getting enough teams to other places so that you have a profitable year. And, you know, I'll take a profitable year. That's good with me, thanks. Psychic says Corum or Dobbins. I like Dobbins. You know, he's just proven that he's been good when he's not hurt. And there's no reason to believe that he's going to be hurt. He seems perfectly healthy. Obviously, his body does not seem perfectly healthy moving forward. Like, it doesn't feel good, but I can't articulate any reason why I think, other than he's been injured in the past, that J.K. Dobbins is going to be injured in the future. Like, I can't do it. I can't think of anything. Like, these aren't super dangerous recurring injuries that we're worried about. So, I don't know. I really like J.K. Dobbins in both the Eliminator and non-Eliminator formats. I just think he's a really good pick. Uh, Back here, what is the reporting on Tucker Kraft's injury? Is he expected to be back week 1? Because I've heard contradictory things on that. I also love how we got Hartman saying in the chat, "I'll fully avoid it now," and then instantly picks another week 11 bye player. You know, it's hard to it's hard to quit that week 11 bye Mageddon. Hard for me, hard for a lot of other people, I'm sure. But yeah, other than that, I just Kraft. I don't know, because if he's not coming back for a while, then that's one thing, and I feel comfortable with not taking him. But even if he is like 100% cleared for the start of the season, I'm not really sure that I want him over Fannin. Like maybe I'm just a huge Fannin bull. Like I think that is perfectly reasonable if the answer to this is, oh yeah, no, you just really like Harold Fannin. But I don't know. I find it hard to take him consistently over Fannin, and that really really makes it hard for me to want to take him at cost. Speaking of Fannin, I could take Fannin. That would be a bit of a bye week issue, or I can just take Aaron Jones. I think I'm just going to take Aaron Jones. I'm going to have so much Aaron Jones by the time this Eliminator is over. By the time I'm done streaming Eliminators, if he keeps to this price, yeesh. Like, he's so cheap for what he can and I think will be. He's just so cheap. That's true. That's true. It's a whole new position. So, a whole new opportunity to have a big zero in your lineup in week 11. No, I mean, we talked about this last year a lot with people just building like super week 14 bye teams and just being like, yeah, it's not going to make it that far. And if it does, great. Don't have to worry about it. My main issue with Tucker Craft is the early season stuff. So Kuma's in the chat. First year doing Eliminator. Are you taking much consideration into week 1 specific matchups? No. I think there was a time when I did do that, like very early on when we had just like a couple of the week 1 matchups and not really much else to go on. I tried to do a couple drafts with those in my head, but we're really bad at predicting defenses year over year. Like who's going to be good defenses, who's going to, be opportunistic, who's going to limit fantasy points. We're really bad. We're really, really bad at predicting that year over year. So I think it's a bit of a fool's errand to be trying to latch onto that, especially this early into the off season. I think that if you're going to use specific matchups, you're going to want to understand probably the first 3 weeks of each team's matchups and sort of do a difficulty ranking of them, and then have an adjustment to your projections or like how good you think players are based on the average difficulty of their first three opponents because that's how long it takes to get into the money. I think it gives you a little bit more leeway to be wrong on specific teams and how exactly their matchups will work and how good of a defense that they'll be. And frankly, I think that it's a lot more important to just be smooth over all the pre-money weeks rather than just the first week. Obviously, the first week is the week that matters the most by far. But it's not the it like as much as we say week one's the only thing that matters. We say I don't know if anyone else but me says that, but as much as I say that week one is the only thing that matters, it's not really because you do still have to beat whoever you're up against in all of your later pods and stuff. I'm gonna get back to talking about that after I make this pick because I think I rambled a little bit there and I didn't quite say what I wanted to. So we got Baker. Here's an option. The fact that it's showing Sam Darnold before it's showing Tyler Shuck is wild, I think. Yeah, I'm just going to go Shuck. Like, he didn't play all 16 games last season. He almost certainly is going to this season, especially if my other New Orleans pieces are going to give me the return I need. So, yeah, just ride with him. And it's not great, but I think I'm fine with leaving this as a 2 QB room. I'll take another QB if it falls to me and if it feels like a good pick, but I'm not going to force a third quarterback at this point like I would a lot of other times. But yeah, no. So what I was just saying earlier, like I think you want to take up the first 3 weeks matchups, and I think you want to really deprioritize like these teams that have really good like playoff schedules. Like I think two teams that I've been hearing a lot about that is like the Cardinals and the Titans, which are already teams that you're not like super excited about. But just by process of elimination, if they have super easy playoff schedules and like average-ish schedules, then you can just see the bulk of their games that you're most likely to be playing those players for are going to be harder matchups. So those are the only like really game by game things is just sort of giving a minor dock to teams that I hear being talked about in BBM circles as having great playoff schedules, and then just looking at the first 3 games of the season and doing little pluses and minuses based off that. Like I have a little bump for Cowboys players in the Eliminator because I think their first 3 games are pretty good. I have a little bit of a ding for a couple. Okay, back on the clock. Says Stroud, Omar Cooper. I mean, we got a first round rookie. Got to be taking those first round rookies. Again, these guys are going to be giving us points in the week where other receivers are not going to be giving us points because they're on bye. And that's more likely to be when we're getting these receivers production. So probably one more receiver and then we're done there. 0 to 1 more running back, 0 to 1 more quarterback. So if it would be a 3-5-7-3. So we're getting at least 3 tight ends, probably sacrificing a quarterback, running back, receiver. One of those will probably not get one more, and we'll pack 4 tight ends into this room. Yes, I remember talking about this, I think, like way early in So You Think You Can Tell. Because I remember talking about I forget who Hampton gets. It's the Chargers week 1 opponent. I just remember it being better. Yeah, they're playing the Cardinals week 1. The Chargers are playing the Cardinals week 1. And I'm like, I think that makes me want to take more O'Marion Hampton in the Eliminator because I think I think the Dolphins are going to be better than the Cardinals, and I think the Dolphins are not as good of a matchup as people may think they are because I think they're just going to be so freaking slow. Like, uh, we have to take Juwan Johnson here, right? Actually, yes. I had a quick thought of taking Rashid Shaheed, but week 11 bye, lots of reasons why that's not correct. But yeah, there's no one else there that I think really stood out. So I'm pretty happy with Juwan Johnson, my favorite tight end. But yeah, I think the Dolphins aren't going to be that great of an opponent just because I think it's going to be low scoring because the defense is not that bad and they're going to be so run heavy. The clock's just going to milk so fast that you're like, oh, wow, I only had the opportunity to give off, you know, 15 touches for Gene T because there wasn't that much time. And, maybe it's a blowout and, Mike Washington comes in or something. I don't know. That's probably not the best argument against Gene T there, especially because I don't truly believe that Gene T's a bad pick. I don't know if the Dolphins are going to be a defense that we want to be targeting when we're getting to week 5, 6, 7 later in the season because it's like the same way we didn't want to target last year. I'm trying to think of a good team that fits this. The Jets. Like the Jets defense wasn't awesome, but the Jets ran the ball so much and were just sort of like slow plodding bleh of a team that even though they were bad and the defense wasn't particularly good, we didn't really want to target them. All right, we're back. It's saying Brenton Strange. It's saying you need another tight end. I guess we'll go Brenton Strange. That's fine. I mean, we've all probably seen the nonsense that has been being talked about with the Jaguars doing like three tight end build, like running a bunch of three tight end sets, which is just so funny. Like, no, you took all the wrong lessons from last year. Like the lesson is play your good players and put your good players in positions to succeed, not just jam a bunch of big guys on the field. Oh, Jacksonville. Oh, Jacksonville. Too many good players on that roster. That's the problem. So there's too many decent players. Good may be a stretch, but decent players. I think I'm actually pretty proud because after those first two week 11 buys, I have not touched another week 11 buy on the rest of the team. Like our most populated buy is 8, but it's with a lot less players, and it's because we have this Mega Saints, or not Mega Saint stack, but we have, yeah, I guess it is a Mega Saint stack. We have quarterback, running back, receiver, and tight end. So if that's not a Mega stack, I don't know what is. And, I may not know what a Mega stack is. Like, let's be completely honest. I'm not the hugest stacking guy. It's wanting us to take another tight end right here. Third tight end in the window. This is the only way that I was going to be considering only doing three tight ends, is if we just went tight end, tight end, tight end, and it was three guys that I was excited about or interested in. It's saying AJ Barner over Kenyon Sadiq. I'm not quite sure why. AJ Barner hasn't done jack diddly squat since entering the league. And I don't think that's really going to change. I think the falling value in Sadiq, who's just so incredibly athletic and can have real upside there, is sort of what we need in this tight end room of, volume. Like Juwan Johnson, probably going to get a lot of volume. Hopefully his touchdowns normalize higher for his targets and routes. Strange will probably be running a lot more routes than we thought, and is just, yeah. Uh, Going back to the chat, yes, I do think the Jaguars will run a lot more 12 personnel. I think that is something they will do. I am just saying I don't think it's something they should do. I think it's a little bit funny that you have all these great receivers, and you're like, you know who I need to put on the field? Whatever his name is, Nate Beneker or something. Like, I don't even know the guy's name. Like, come on, man. Really? That's what you're trying to do? Really? I don't know. Not for me. And, if it works for them, great. I just don't think it will. And I don't think it really has a good shot. I don't think they're giving themselves a good shot for it to work by being so brazen about it and with the types of players that they are getting to do it. Yeah, no, I mean, I love Tootin. I think that the running backs there are good values. And I hope that they do get some really good running back production out of there. I don't know. This is tough. I don't take a ton of Ray Davis, but I'm going to take him here. I'm sort of just out on a lot of the Buffalo running backs as a whole, but if something happens to James Cook, Ray Davis is probably getting the majority of his stuff, and because I think a lot of that stuff is just opportunity based and not talent based with James Cook, you know, Ray Davis could just be the guy, and it gives me a nice straight at my running back bye week numbers, which is funny, but not really a plus anywhere else. We're not getting another quarterback, are we? No, methinks not, which is fine. I think Lamar and Chuck can steady this room pretty well. This is the other time I check matchups where it's like Lamar. You get to see this. Ravens week. What is it? 8 matchup. 2026. Buffalo Bills. Yeah, I'm okay with. I'm okay with having just Lamar against the Bills. That's probably going to be fine. And then what would be Saints week 8? Saints week 13 matchup is the Packers. Again, another one where I'm like, I don't think the Packers defense is going to be that great, and Shuck, but they'll probably be the Saints probably behind and chucking it. So I'm happy to have just Shuck there for that week. Like, not happy, but I'm fine with it. Jeremy Bernard is a player. Dejon Shriveling in the 17th round, fine, fine. You know what? It's another week 8 bye. And, maybe he has to like fight his way past Christian Kirk on the depth chart. But he's the 33rd pick of the draft. Like, you cannot be telling me the 33rd pick of the draft is not worth the 17th round pick, even in front-loaded formats. Like, you just can't be telling me that. Especially when I've got other players that are really, really good. That I'm more worried about this week 11 bye stuff. So that's the problem I'm trying to fix in my receiver room, not week 1 production. I think JSN in London and McConkey will give me plenty of week 1 production. And if they don't, this team's probably DOA anyway. So with our last pick, we're probably going tight end. Like, maybe we grab Tua if he falls to us. Yeah, the only argument over Stribling there was to go ahead and just take the 4th tight end if you know you're taking a 4th tight end. But I did not know. I thought it was likely, I thought it was possible, but I did not know. Man, it is late. Because despite being on the Pacific Coast now, my body I think is still kind of on Eastern time, so feels like it's almost 1:30. Guy at 12 only has Willis and Tua. That's bold. The interesting thing is the problem with this is it's gonna make his team better in the first couple of weeks because those two guys are probably gonna be starting, and he hasn't had a third pick on quarterback. Actually, no, this team just sucks. Pacheco and Bisbee, not the format for that. Gainwell, Pollard, like these receivers, like I really think DJ Moore is doing a lot. Sutton, yeah, I don't like this team a ton. Oh, okay, so I agree with the sidekick. It is tight end time. Charlie Kolar would be really funny. Um, but no, we'll just do Stowers. We got we got a lot of rookies on this team for an eliminator. More than I think I generally want. We got Stowers, Sadiq, Stribling, Cooper, and Tyson as rookies, which feels a little bit thin possibly, but I don't know. I think it could also be really nice. So let's just go back over that team. It's Lamar and Shuck at quarterback, Etienne, Warren, Dobbins, Aaron Jones, and Ray Davis at running back. A little bit thin, but I think can really be fine, especially with this receiver room that is awesome. JSN, London, McConkey, Tyson, Wandale, Omar Cooper, and Deshaun Stribling. Feels really good, and I think the tight end room is also really good because we got 4 of them, and they're all pretty decent. Jennings, Strange, Sadiq, Stowers. I think this is I like this team a lot more than I like my first team. Let's go make sure we name these guys. Make sure that we crash Underdog. Very important. Da, 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 da. So 6/28 with or, uh, with Hartman, Cheery, and then this one will differentiate by just being with Hartman. If we get another draft to fill like instantly, I'll do a third one. Yep, it looks like it's going to fill instantly. So we'll do a third one, and this will be my last draft of the night. Obviously, we only have like a month and a half probably before this fills. So I'm going to be doing a lot more of these streams, and when I am streaming, it's probably going to hopefully be 2 or 3 drafts rather than just the one for the next little while. But I'm excited to keep doing this. All right, so we got Hartman coming in at the 6 hole. I'm going to be at the 9 hole for this draft. 9 hole gets a lot of creativity. So we'll see what people want to do. It is very strange drafting late at night. Having the no badgers, the black badgers. I forget how you look and see how much you've done. I forget how to do that because I am sometimes a Papega man. So, I think I'm really close. Like, let me see if I can figure that out real quick. Is it here? No. Account details, maybe? So you come no, because you come here from account details. I'm fine, Mr. Sidekick. Thank you very much, though. Um, yeah, can't find it. Whatever. Not worth missing the draft for. Just wanted to poke around because I'm definitely getting it this season. I may just get it from uh my eliminator drafts, but obviously I'm doing other drafts other than just the eliminator. I have to have something to, draft as I'm falling asleep. That is a joke. I do not draft when I fall asleep most days. I also, unlike some people, do not draft and drive. All right, everything looking pretty normal. Yeah, people just not respecting JSN. Are we drafting another shipper? We are not drafting another shipper, Mr. Hartman. That's okay. We'll see what these 2 guys do. I've got 3 players that I'm really happy to take here, and I'm going to get one of them. So that's all I can ask for. Yeah, we got Taylor going, and then I'll probably either be taking Amon-Ra or Gene-T, whoever this guy does not want. And I don't really care. I'm happy to start either way. A lot of times I would be taking uh, intriguing. A lot of times I would be taking earlier. I'd be taking Lamb over St. Brown, but I think people are pulling up St. Brown. That I don't want that to be such a huge stand. Do it actually? No, we'll take Gene-T. I mean, we'll take Brown. Obviously, we wanted Brown. Brown's just so good. He's been moving up boards. He's very consistent. How could you not want a good, nice, freshly manicured Amon-Ra St. Brown? It's definitely not the second auto draft pick that I've had made for me on this stream. This one I'm a lot happier about, though. I think the Jonathan Brooks one was a disaster. This is something that I was tossing up in my head anyway, so I'm not really worried about it. We'll see how these guys want to go. Got Jefferson. Oh, is this guy going to take the whole clock for every pick? That's going to be really annoying. I don't like that. I want to go to bed. Oh, Jeremiah Love at 13. You know, you can take as much of the clock as you want if you're taking Jeremiah Love at 13. Be my guest. Darn. I would have really liked Derrick Henry. I like Derrick Henry. I think we were just talking about Marion Hampton's early schedule. I think if we have problems with Keaton Mitchell, they'll come later in the season, like maybe post bye, and their early stretch is just so good that I'm not. I think that pulling Hampton up a little bit is, pardon me, perfectly fine. So we got Chargers 2026 schedule. They open. Yes, this is what I was talking about. They open against the Cardinals. Their week 2 opponent is against the Raiders. Their week 3 opponent is against the Bills, who at least last year were a freaking open season for rushing. And then it gets harder against like the next 3 weeks are next 4 weeks are going to be rough. The entire month of October is just going to be rough with games against the Seahawks, Broncos, Rams, and Chiefs. And then their next game is against the Texans. Like that is a really rough 5 game stretch. And then everything post bye uh, feels really good. Actually, sorry, the Rams and Texans are post bye for them, but like in a way that doesn't really matter. Alrighty, I'm back to the board. Copying my start out of the 6 hole, Mr. Hartman. That's very funny. See, see how you land the plane. I think I did a pretty decent job. Obviously, I think some things could have gone better, but I really hope that you do get to land the plane in a great way, and we will not be having the same team through and through, which would be very funny. But Underdog probably wouldn't like that. That'd be an interesting thing. Like, what happens in the Eliminator? Because I'm sure it's possible that you have 2 people drafting exactly the same team. I wonder what would happen if they get put in a pod against each other. If you had 2 exactly the same teams put in a pod against each other, I wonder what they would do, because one of you has to advance. I wonder if that's somewhere like in the like long rules that they talk about. I'm not sure. Restaurant may be mobile only. Oh, okay, I can check it on my phone. Oh, how you doing, nice and blunt? It's good to see some fellow Pacific people over here, the people that are still awake and ready to talk best ball at 1:30 Eastern. It's very nice. Oh, yeah. Let me check my. I'll check my phone after this pick. Ooh, we have Zay Flowers available. I'm not a huge Kyron guy. I think Blake Corum could be eating more into the workload than we expect. And look at these paltry touchdown numbers for how many receptions and yards he has. You know what? I love Kyron Williams. I don't know what's going on because that's like the third time that I've like clicked on a player when it says I have a couple seconds left here, and said that I've missed my pick. Maybe it's like a little bit laggy. I don't know. That's annoying. But if I'm autoing into a running back, there are worse things to be autoed into. Because Kyron could just be really nice with it. Could just be that guy in LA, which is probably going to be even a better offense than usual. Sorry, than average. Let me see if I can pull up my draft thing on my phone without it looking too terribly bad. Something tells me the answer is no, but I can try. Oh, yeah, I mean, it's straight here on mobile. Yeah, I guess it is just mobile only. Yeah, it's been a bit strange. I don't know. These are things you just have to live with, I guess. Not push the clock to its limit. Garrett Wilson versus Lad. We'll go Lad, even though we've already done Lad, and Garrett Wilson is, I think, a better player in my mind. I think team level correlation is an important thing to have in the Eliminator because you're not doing as much stacking. So, especially on a bye week that's sparser, like 7. So, I don't know. I like having these guys together and just saying that the Chargers are going to be really good during that stretch of the season, then rely on some other people during the weeks where it's going to be rougher. Yeah. But I think this is a really good start. Got some exciting Chargers players, you know, the safest bet for a top 3 wide receiver, and the person who could just be on the favorable side of a, 70-30, 80-20 split for one of the best offenses in the league. And, we got mainly West Coast teams, which is very thematic for the first draft on West Coast time, or the first stream on West Coast time. 2 drafts in already, obviously. But yeah, ah, this is it's nice now that the eliminators are actually filling super fast. I remember when I was doing the streams, last month, it was always rough getting the the contest to fill in a reasonable time, but going back to back to back on these has been really nice. I don't know if that's just a function of the time of night and people being up and around or not, but I'm really loving it. I'm streaming from San Francisco. I just got home from the contract. I'm assuming if you're here, you've been watching the So You Think You Can Tout stuff pretty closely. So I'm back home off of cast housing and back in San Francisco, and it's I've been here 2 days, and it's so good to be home. Like it's good to be around people I know. It's good to be able to go to the restaurants that I'm used to going to. It's always nice to come home because I haven't been to this house in like a year and a half, just because I've been living with other people and on contracts and doing vacations. Like it's been a while since I've been home, so it's nice to actually be here. Same thing with the Chargers. We can do it with the Rams. I think that's really quite nice. Yeah, Devontae can just score a ton of touchdowns, continue to get a decent amount of targets. Yeah, that's who I wanted, but it's really early. So I need to just lock in and not be yapping so much, pardon me, about all these picks. I mean, part of the joy of the stream is getting to yap to you guys about the picks, but I'll touch down a little bit so that I don't get auto drafted players I don't want. But yeah, we got the all blue squad here so far with the jerseys. Helps when you're drafting people from the same team if you want them to all be the same color jersey. Hmm. I've seen camp reports of Price running with the ones more and more without pads. I'm curious if Price's price is going to rise if he is like declared the starting running back at the start of the season, or if that's just what people are expecting. If he that for him to like lead a committee backfield starting week one, because I'm not expecting him to lead a committee starting week one, but I also don't necessarily want to be paying any higher of a price for him than we're paying right now. I think, you know, mixing him with the starters, blah 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 blah. We'll we'll grab Price. I think this is the right time and place to be drafting him. Already solid running back room that just needs some upside. We're going to be worried about week 11 buys regardless. We're almost certainly not picking Stafford on this team, anyways. So it's a little bit easier to stay away from the week 11 buys. Like the only thing that we maybe consider is tacking on a Rashid Shaheed later. But I think we're fine here. Just need to dodge, Parker Washington, Ramondre. Yeah, there's actually a lot of picks up here that I need to dodge, but I don't have another pick for another couple rounds. So, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I think I was talking a bit with Gumas about that, nice and blunt. But I think that the early season schedule is a tiebreaker and something that I have like a little mini list of teams that I'm like, oh, okay, they've got a really good early season schedule, and these teams have rougher early season schedules, and they're like push certain players in certain directions. Like I was talking about the Chargers schedule earlier, and you've got the first three games against the Bills, the Cardinals, and the Raiders, and I that really does change my opinion of Amarian Hampton. Like I think that he's going to be really good in the weeks before you cash, and I think that that's really important. But it is only a tiebreaker, and it only nudges things in directions. It is not the end all be all. Okay, I probably shouldn't have that covering my team. Of all the places to put the sidekick, where it covers my team is probably not the correct choice. Um, but yeah, and I think so. Like that's one way that I look at it, and then the other thing I always try and do is just remember the teams when I'm watching, people stream Best Ball Manias and Pete or the Swolecast people or ADP chasing or ship chasing people talk about it. I want to. Oh, that's annoying. I guess I can go here. Um, I want to be avoiding teams that everyone is excited about in BBM because one, I think that they will be naturally overdrafted in the Eliminator because they're picks that people are excited and wanting to be making in BBM, so they're probably going to want to, have favorable understandings of those players in the Eliminator too. But it's a double whammy because if you're looking at a soft end of season schedule, then your earlier season schedule is going to naturally be harder. So it's a good way to be able to think and process that without having to actually sit down and memorize all of the schedules of all of the different teams and have an opinion on that. Because I don't think that that's reasonable for us to be doing, is to actually have the schedule in order and have a strong understanding of each individual games. People aren't doing that for BBM, so they're definitely not doing it for the Eliminator. But, as the season goes on and we think about it and talk about it more, I'm hoping that it just sort of assimilates as well a little bit because I will be going and like alt tabbing over to another screen and like typing in some schedule stuff over the course of the draft, especially if I'm doing like two QB builds or two tight end builds, making sure that there's not a really bad matchup on my other quarterback or tight ends by week is something that I think's pretty useful. While we get the opportunity to take another share of J.K. Dobbins. Same thing I was saying last time. He's just probably the starter and probably pretty damn good. So I like players that are probably the starter and probably pretty damn good on good offenses that have different buys than the other players I have. And if he gets hurt, he gets hurt. If he dies, he dies. That's not my problem, frankly. Ah, yeah. I cannot get over Michael Wilson. I need to stop thinking about Michael Wilson. I need to not look at people that are drafting Michael Wilson. Oh dear. Oh wow. I also need to not look at people that are drafting Malik Neighbors in the fourth round. Not in this draft. Not in this lifetime. All right. Okay. So we're actually are getting a pretty similar draft between me and Hartman, or me from last time and Hartman. We've got the Pittsburgh stands. We've got the first two picks being the same. We got the Lamar Jackson. Pretty similar. They're just a bunch of good picks at cost, I think. Obviously there was stuff to worry about with both Jacobs and Scatabo, but Jacobs without anything to worry about probably goes for Javante after HA, maybe? Like definitely in this Javante, HN, ETN, and Hall range. Like I think he definitely goes with those guys without all the nonsense hanging over his head. So, if it's priced in, I'm much more willing to accept the risk. And Scatabo, like, there was a time where it was like, okay, Quinshon's doing all this stuff and being out and about and doing, you know, drills. Why aren't you? And then Scatabo was like, oh, okay, I'll do drills and stuff. So at least for me, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, don't have to think about that anymore. That feels good. I don't know. I just can't do it with the Stafford price. I can't do it. If this guy chooses to take another quarterback and screw me, so be it. I want Bo Nix. I think Denver's going to be a pretty decent offense. I think that Bo Nix is rushing. He did want another quarterback. I didn't even get the choice. Um, but yeah, I mean, he's put up good fantasy seasons. I think this Denver offense can be good to great. So that's what we index on. And we really don't want to get super boxed out at quarterback. I think I'm looking at my running back room and I'm like, this is an amount of capital that I'm fine with spending on running back. Like, I don't have to have another running back, but with the 2 week 11 buys, I think there are some thinner running backs that go towards the middle of the draft that we can tack on that'll just make that feel a little bit more comfortable and I think just be a little bit better. Yeah. I mean, as you should be taking the Pittsburgh guys. It's an undervalued offense. An undervalued offense and people are scared of things that don't have to happen. Like Rodgers doesn't have to, continue declining. McCarthy is still a good coach. Like I don't think anyone's arguing that. Like people aren't saying that Metcalf or Pittman are bad players. So I don't get what people are so worried about. All right, well, a tier of quarterbacks has passed us by. So we're just gonna say goodbye as they wander off into the sunset. Uh, we're on this tier of receivers again. Take Pearsall. Okay. That time it actually did let me get to the end of the countdown, which I appreciated. This also could have been a Jonathan Brooks pick if I was more in on Brooks. I'm just so incredibly not that I don't think it's great. I like the bye week of Pearsall over Worthy. I think they're very similar in that they've both been reasonably efficient when they're on the field and in the offense and everything's going smooth. I'm just not super confident that that's going to happen, but it absolutely could. And if it does, then he's a great pick at cost. Like, he was putting up 20-point weeks with some sort of regularity when healthy. Pearsall was. So it's entirely possible that he stays healthy and, gives us 4 20-point weeks over the course of the season and decent enough floor. Especially if Kittle it doesn't come back, which I I just don't trust the Niners on reporting their own injuries. I cannot do it. I'm going to have 0% George Kittle in this contest because I don't think he's going to be ready for week 1. I don't think he's going to be ready for week 2. I don't think he's going to be ready for week 3. I think it's entirely possible they hold him out until after his bye, which I think obviously people are going to understand is not good if happens. I just think that that's a lot more likely to happen than other people evidently think it is likely to happen. And we're having bye week overlap red flags with every receiver. Oh joy. And some of the running backs too. Which is funny. Yeah. I love the fact that the sidekick like pulls up week 17 correlation even when it's doing the eliminator. Like I'm not sure that this is different like a different program for the eliminator versus not the eliminator. I hope it is. I think it is. But I'm not sure. Obviously I don't know those guys personally and I don't know what the back end would look like. So I have no way to tell or figure that out. But I do worry a little bit that it's not because the buy overlap, I don't know if it's carrying as much weight as it should, and the week 17 thing is carrying, if anything, the wrong weight. I think I'm going to say that the psychic is a silly little guy and take Chris Rodriguez. Could just be Jacksonville's lead back. It's entirely possible. Not saying it's likely, but it's entirely possible that C-Rod is just the Jags lead back. And as we were saying earlier, I think that the Jags could be a huge proponent of rushing this season. Yeah, probably need to be looking at how I get out of this quarterback I'm in right now. Because just Bo Nix is not going to do it. I don't really have other great stacked options. So I'm probably going to have... This guy took 4 quarterbacks. Lawrence, Purdy, Stafford, and Darnold. Yeah, so I'm going to take Stroud and probably end up backstacking him. Obviously, you never know, but I'd say more likely than not, we'll just end up backstacking him, and it'll be fine. And if not, we don't need him. Yeah, that's fair. I think it is probably calibrated. It's just like visually strange that it's talking about week 17 stuff when like in this contest it just doesn't matter. Like I would say the same thing in like weekly winners. Like if it had the same visual structure. I guess it is harder to it's probably not worth it to just change the visual structure for one contest type that not a lot of people are doing. Like not a lot of people are doing the eliminator or having the eliminator be their main thing. So it's probably not worth the coding that it would take to undo that. However, it is strange to look at, I guess is all that I'm saying. Yeah. Let's look at your team. I'm curious to see how this is continued. So we got Mr. 42% himself. The other guy I was really considering Worthy, Andrews, Rogers. Yep, that makes sense. So you definitely needed exactly one more quarterback. I mean, you can take another one if you really want to, but you really needed that second quarterback. Yeah, and I'm now the one that's finding myself a little bit boxed out at quarterback. Nixon Stroud is perfectly cromulent as a quarterback room, but I'm not certainly not loving it. Dum 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 dum. Yeah, so there's definitely I think Goddard and sometimes Henry I take over Jawan Johnson at the tight end position. I think tight end is reasonable, reasonably likely to be taken here. The only thing that I may swap to do is grab Tucker. I think he's. I've talked about this in my time on the bash. He's the yeah, and now that Henry goes, and like it's likely that I get Johnson back, I'm just gonna grab Trey Tucker. I mean, he's likely the wide receiver one on a decent enough Raiders team. Oh, really? Darn. I really thought he had a good chance of coming around, but I guess not. That's unfortunate. Anyways, back to this. I think this allows me to definitely stop at seven, probably like maybe even stop at six receivers. Like these are all pretty high picks. We're definitely stopping at five running backs. I think like these guys just have to be able to carry me through the season. That's why I've drafted them in the way I do. If I can get the right price and personnel for a third quarterback, I'll take him. Otherwise, nope. And then it allows me to just hammer tight end. Yep. Yeah, we can do the strange thing again. That's fine. We'll do the strange thing again. That keeps that Jacksonville bet up. We're getting a little bit uh, heavily indexed on week 7 buys, so I'm going to try and keep that in mind moving forward. But it's not awful. It's not too much. While we're waiting for this to happen, I'm just. Can I? No, because it has to be completed for me. Like, it'd be cool if I could rename it now instead of having to wait for the draft to be over to rename it. But Sestlavia. Yeah, I was hoping to get Schultz. Schultz would have been a really nice addition to this tight end room. He was who I wanted to backstack Stroud with, but when you have other sharp drafters in the room, they're gonna grab up the good players. That's what you expect. That's what happens. Because yeah, this is good for your team as well. I mean, you're pretty much guaranteed to be done at tight end. I would assume you're done at quarterback. Your receivers feel good as long as you can get the right players to cover that week 11 bye. I mean, your top 3 players are all not going to be there week 11, which is rough. Like those are you can probably not afford to have more. And you haven't through 14th round, which is really the important thing. These picks are probably aren't going to hit your roster no matter what, but they're more likely to hit your roster in week 11. So having them not be week 11 buys probably pretty good. No Jerry Judy for you. Uh, Hawkinson versus Barner versus Helm, Otten, Dulcich. Yeah, just grab. I'm just gonna grab them. It's gonna be like whatever, whichever one is at the top of the sidekick, and whichever one feels correct, we take. Like we'll start with Hawk. Because, Hawkinson was really, really good. And he's got super crazy target competition now, but he's a tight end. Like he's still gonna get touchdowns, you know. And maybe one day Josh Oliver won't be won't be going crazy in there. I'm trying to think. Do they have? Are they the ones with what's his name? Johnny Munt. Okay. Is Derek Ferguson just going higher in this, or am I just in rooms where people are huge Terrence Ferguson bulls? Because there's been a couple times now that I've just been sort of like, Terrence Ferguson already, really? Super surprised. Yeah, we'll go ahead and grab Pat Fryermuth. Keep on building this tight end room to be fine enough. Like, this one is sort of the opposite of the last draft I did, where I'm like, I feel really good about my quarterbacks and tight ends, and I felt less good about my running backs and receivers. This, I feel really good about my running backs and receivers, and not so much about my tight ends and quarterbacks. True! You can't have a bye that if you're not playing. Like, I don't have a bye. It's great. Yeah, it's definitely like a very different beast than your BBMs. Like the ADPs, especially at the top, are wildly different. You have to be focused on different things as you're drafting than a BBM, and it actually does. I think it takes more thought. Like there's more random crap that you have to consider in the Eliminator than BBMs, because when you're trying to hit these lottery tickets, there's a lot more things that are forgivable in terms of structure and planning. When you're trying to just build a good team that has a really solid floor and enough upside to win a tournament, like you have a lot less wiggle room and a lot less like license to be creative. So you have to be very in touch with what's going on in the draft. You have to be very in touch with what's going on in the draft so that you can maneuver around it. And even if you're not getting position groups that you love, you're not getting completely screwed. Like you're not that guy from the last draft who ended his draft with just Malik Willis and Tua at quarterback. You're not, someone who's like take the take the 5 hole. Like when your running backs are all these guys, Mitchell, Algier, Sampson, Robinson, Hubbard, and then McCaffrey, like you gotta be at least a little bit worried here. And very indexed on week 5 buys, which is a pretty early buy for your RB2 that you don't really have an RB3 for to be having to miss. Definitely not going up on that. We're definitely should be grabbing another receiver. Uh, Tank Dell versus Jeremy Bernard. Let's grab Tank Dell over Darnell Mooney too. Just because I'm very excited to figure out who's going to be the wide receiver 1 in New York, but we don't know yet. So I'm not going to start talking about stuff that we don't know. Hmm. Yeah, we could grab another receiver here if we really wanted. Could grab a quarterback. Could grab, Kirk Cousins early season points. That's very important. Sanders seems to be showing in camp that he's better than Deshaun Watson, which is not a huge surprise, but does make me feel good that Deshaun Watson hopefully will not be a starting quarterback in the year of our Lord 2026. I really don't want to have to think about that. I really, really don't want to have to think about starting quarterback Deshaun Watson. Fourth tight end ideas. Tundras is weird because it's a big case of if I'm wrong, I'm really wrong. But I think this is the type of team where I'm okay with that on, where that it's sort of my replacement for the rookie tight ends that I can't take in this build. Like I can't take, I didn't get the opportunity like I did last draft to take um, an Eli Stowers or a Kenyon Sadiq. So this is my, inverted bet that's the same style but different music. I mean, double tapping Watson Shador is not crazy. I think I'd rather do that with the Atlanta guys than the Cleveland guys because I think it is very possible that we get some games out of, Dylan Gabriel or random free agent quarterback just because the Browns are so crazy and incompetent and just like, eh. And, Bo Nix and CJ Stroud are both NFL starting quarterbacks that are locked into their roles and aren't going to get benched. Neither one of them have like super bad injury histories. If I'm going to be doing a mediocre two quarterback build, this is how I want it to be. Where I'm like, okay, now that I've got four tight ends, that seems really strong. I feel like this wide receiver room really strong. I think this running back room, especially when correlated with the wide receiver room, feels really strong. So I'm actually really happy with this team as well. I think it turned out really nicely. I think your team is pretty similar. I mean, we got the similar sort of thing going on with the Washington running backs that I did with the Carolina running backs, just at a very, very different cost. But otherwise diversifying the bye weeks pretty well, other than the week 11 stuff at the beginning. But throughout the rest of the draft, like in week 11, we can probably count on Jeremy Bernard, Xavier Worthy, and MHJ to like fill up your receiver scores. Like it's not going to be great, but it's not disastrous. But yeah, no, this has been a fun time. I think it's been almost exactly 2 hours since I booted up the stream, got 3 drafts done, which I think is really exactly where I want to be. I'll try and keep up this pace uh, later. But thank you to everyone who has been watching. Thank you to who have been watching and everyone who watched earlier. I will. It's time for me to go to bed, but this is a fun time, and I will see you probably not tomorrow, but early next week. So, see you around.